Chantal called, and she called because she had my phone number from Marcel Hanoun, which she had met at the Jerusalem Film Festival, and where she had family. She was going every year to visit her cousin, I think. And Marcel told him then I was a camera person, and he recommended me because she was looking for a camera person. So he gave her my phone number, which he had, obviously, because I had seen him when I was in, and also he was in New York when I first arrived in New York in 70. He was back in Paris then, but we were still in contact. So, obviously. And I actually worked and shot a film for him in 71 in the fall, in the August, just a week after my mother died, actually. So I had seen him then. He had not told me I'd meet that girl, but I perfectly knew he was coming back from Jerusalem as well. So I asked Chantal, she wanted to come to my house, gave a direction, she came over, and we immediately became friends because we had... we felt we were working, we wanted to work in a world of men, and I had been prevented to really do a lot of things I wanted to do in France, and I was in America to find another way, as a woman, and that was the same thing for her, basically. New York was actually a fantastic time, because he was very open to outsiders, like I was, like Chantal was, like all the foreigners coming to New York were. It was very cheap to live. It was easy to find small jobs, with no paper, no green card, nothing. It was easy to manage in a way. And there was plenty of things which were free, and there was plenty of art which we could go and see in gallery, and music to hear, like which cost nothing to pay for, etc., etc. So, I got her to go on Elizabeth Street to hear a concert of Philip Glass, and we were all totally enthralled, and we went to see a film at the Anthology Film Archive, and I got her to MoMA because of my entry at MoMA. I was going there at the film center, but also in the film screening room downstairs. I had a membership, which was offered by a friend of mine. I was studying theater, avant-garde theater, Richard Foreman, Bob Wilson in 72. I saw for the first time some workshop he was doing. So not when I first met Chantal, that came a year after, but she was there when that happened a year later. And so in many ways, I was discovering things a little bit. And she had also a contact. She had family there in New York. And she lived at a friend, somebody who became a friend of mine too, named Jane Stein, who was working for theater, for Broadway theater. I was not involved in Broadway theater. I was involved in off-Broadway, basically, very experimental theater. But so the world was very diverse. You could be in contact with different days uptown and downtown in New York at that time. There is, iHeart and pop art and so on. So there is all that dynamic of different... and in many ways, Paris was like that too, Although there was not much avant-garde in Paris at that time, and it was very, very narrow and isolated in a way. There was much more energy in both arenas in New York. In many ways, this kind of conceptual minimalism, which was, in parallel with pop art, developing from the early 60s and still very, very strong in the 70s, and the impact of the concept of improvisation and chance brought by John Cage, that was really fundamental for me and my practice. And the discovery of the camera work, which is so eccentric, of Stan Brakhage, and also the kind of rigor of Michael Snow, are two experimental filmmakers which have had a huge importance for me as a camera person. Not only that, but Hotel Montreuil is the portrait of the kind of hotel where I lived for $35 a week. I was not in that hotel. I was in an hotel on 23rd Street, but which was exactly the same. It was transient people who were dying, and you heard them not being able, having emphysema and unable to breathe, and you really felt they were on their last breath basically, and I was still smoking a lot, and I did not. Now I don't smoke anymore, so I don't think I will die of emphysema. But that world which was captured in Hotel Montreuil is something. Chantal lived in that hotel for 3 weeks before we shot the movie, So it's from the experience of living there that the film came. It's the experience of living in that room on Spring Street, on this studio room on Spring Street where we shot La Chambre in February 72. Documentary, but they also are personal. They're not a straight documentary because they are not about. They're about a state of being and not an evolving situation with a conflict, So they are not the tradition of a documentary, which is essentially to speak of problems, social problem, and so on. They are more like, they definitely want to be about the real world. What is the real context of her life? And for Chantal, that was really important to do. And I think what is so important is to New York make you think in terms of space, because the space is so different than the one from Europe.